Again, another quote from Bart Ehrman, the text of the New Testament in Contemporary Research, page 4. Quote, "On the other hand, why should this close similarity between the texts of Westcott Hort and our modern editions be surprising? After all, none of these new discoveries had dislodged Codices Vaticanus and Sinaiticus from their preeminent place in the whole structure." End quote. In other words, UBS, United Bible Society's text, remains committed to the same conclusions of Westcott and Hort in using Vaticanus as their base text and Sinaiticus to fill in the blanks, and very rarely going anywhere else for their readings. Philip Comfort, again in his book Early Manuscripts and Modern Translations, page 24, is quoted by Gail Riplinger in her book New Age Bible Versions. She quotes Philip Comfort from page 24 of his book, and he is speaking of the third edition of the UBS text, and he says, quote, "And other scholars are discouraged that this new text still looks so much like the Westcott Hort text." End quote. Jack Mormon, in his book Forever Settled, page 276, quotes Canon Cook, who said, quote, "By far the greatest number of innovations, including those which give the severest shocks to our minds, are adapted on the authority of two manuscripts, or even of one manuscript, against the distinct testimony of all other manuscripts, the Vatican Codex." End quote. So, making it a clean sweep for the Pope, we find out that the so-called Septuagint that you hear people constantly refer to is really nothing but the Old Testament of the Pope's Bible. Whether or not there ever was a Septuagint, what we have today is not the Septuagint. What we have today is the Hexapla of Origen, a heretic who mutilated the Scriptures. And we also have this Vaticanus Old Testament in Greek. And that is what's referred to as the Septuagint. It is nothing but the Pope's Old Testament in Greek. Here's a quote regarding the Codex Vaticanus directly from the Catholic Encyclopedia itself. Quote, "As to the editions of this codex, the Roman edition of the Septuagint, 1587, was based on the Vaticanus. Similarly, the Cambridge edition of Sweet follows it regularly and makes use of the Sinaiticus and the Alexandrinus only for the portions that are lacking in the Vaticanus." End quote. So there's a Catholic scholar right from the Catholic Encyclopedia who is confirming what we've already said. The New is nothing but Vaticanus with Sinaiticus filling in the blanks, and once in a while they'll go off to Alexandrinus or something else, but it's basically Vaticanus with edits. Let's look at a man named Cardinal Weissman. He's quoted by William P. Grady in his book, What Hath God Wrought, page 330, quote, "For, in fact, the principal writers who have avenged the Vulgate," which is Vaticanus as you're referring to, "and obtained for its critical preeminence are Protestants." These so-called Protestants doing the Pope's work for him, and in their writings producing a defense of the use of what he called the Vulgate, which is the Vatican Bible. Thomas S. Preston, who was the so-called Reverend of St. Anne's Roman Catholic Church in New York, also quoted from William P. Grady in What Hath God Wrought, page 330, quote, "It is to us a gratification to find that in very many instances they have adopted the reading of the Catholic version and have thus by their scholarship confirmed the correctness of our Bible." End quote. In July 1881, going back to the time Westcott and Hort produced their new version, the Dublin Review, which was a Catholic publication, says, quote, "The new version will be the death knell to Protestantism." End quote. Now, we say that today and we get in trouble. But the new versions are producing apostasy. And if you want to know why the emergent church and the ecumenical movement are so successful in pulling Christians, including professing Baptists, back into the errors of Rome and back to the Pope, it's because they're using the Pope's Bible. Jesus said, "These words that I speak, they are spirit and they are life." And if you're not following God's book, you're following the Pope's book, and the Pope's book will take you back to the Pope, and that's exactly what's happening. A reference from S. Boulot in a article from the New Catholic Encyclopedia, he says, quote, Westcott and Hort used it, referring to Vaticanus, as the fundamental text for their edition, and through them it has played the decisive role in many manual editions, end quote. If you wonder why the Pope now promotes Bible reading, you can stop wondering. It's because other than King James Bible believers, everyone else is using his Bible. And what I call Vatican fundamentalists. These are professing Protestants, professing evangelicals, and professing fundamentalists. You'll find them all over the place in schools that claim to be fundamentalists, pushing the Vatican Bible. And I refer to them as Vatican fundamentalists. Here's an explanation taken from Gail Ripplinger as to just how Roman Catholic the new text is. Ripplinger says in her book, New Age Versions, page 497, quote, the UBS Vice President is Roman Catholic Cardinal Onitsha of Nigeria. The Executive Committee includes Roman Catholic Bishop Alalona of Italy. Among the editors is Roman Catholic Cardinal Martini of Milan. In the past, Catholics would not work with Protestants in the work of Bible translation because Catholics translated using the Greek manuscript Vaticanus as seen in Jerome's Latin Vulgate. Protestants until 1881 used the majority Greek text, end quote. And that has all changed. The reason why you have Roman Catholics heading up the United Bible Society's text committees, and why you have Catholics and Protestants uniting to produce Bible translations, is because the Protestants have bowed a knee and are now using the Pope's Bible to produce these new versions. On page 498 in New Age Versions, now that liberal Protestants are using the Vatican manuscript also, Catholics are saying, and this is a quote from the Vatican II, Catholics should work together with Protestants in the fundamental task of biblical translation, end quote. Why? Because the hindrance has been removed. Protestants now bow to the Pope and use his manuscript for their Bibles. Again, page 498, Ripplinger quotes the 1943 papal encyclical, quote, where the Pope called for a common Bible, saying, this is a quote from the Pope, these translations should be produced in cooperation with separated brothers, end quote. There is the Pope endorsing unifying with separated brethren, non-Catholics, to produce new translations. Why? They're using his manuscript, the Greek Old Testament and Greek New Testament of Vaticanus.